I ended up investing a lot of money into crypto at the time, which then I rolled my profits from that into Amazon. So that was a concise version of how I got to where I am now.
So I feel like a lot of people start off with the retail arbitrage, then OA, then wholesale, and then maybe eventually add private label. And a lot of our audience is going to be doing that online arbitrage model.
If you don't like getting on the phone, do it anyway. Like, there's no way around the truth and the hard work that has to go into this.
Cheers.
Cheers, gentlemen. Thank you guys for having me.
Welcome back to another episode of the Bois podcast. I'm your host, Logan, joined by my lovely Studley co-hosts, Flipping It with Cisco and Formosa McGill. Today, we're also joined by a special guest, Pete, or it's Pete Double. We're super excited to have Pete here on the podcast. He's been selling on Amazon for about a year and a half, primarily doing wholesale. And he also has some experience running his own 3PL or prep center. So we're super excited to dive into his story and learn about all of his business operations. So yeah, Pete, thank you so much for coming on.
Pleasure, man. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, so we'd love to start off kind of hearing about your background. I know you have some experience in the music industry, and then kind of about 18 months ago, stumbled across Amazon. So we'd love to hear your background up until you started selling.
Yeah, so I've had an interesting life. Nothing bad. I've just been like a workaholic probably my entire life. I did the lemonade stand early on when I was a kid. My first business was a DJ company, so I used to do like Sweet 16s and bar mitzvahs and school dances, things like that, private events. I was a dancer for a long time myself. I worked for like the Nets kids with the Brooklyn Nets basketball team. Did a lot of commercial stuff that led me into music. 11 albums later, COVID happens. I ended up investing a lot of money into crypto at the time, which then I rolled my profits from that into Amazon. So that was a concise, version of how I got to where I am now.
And do you remember how you originally found out about Amazon? Was it a certain content creator, or what led you?
Yeah, to get actually into how I started selling, it's actually funny. My mother has been one of my number one fans of life my whole life, so I'm super grateful to have her. And she always used to just send me content of like, you should look into this. You'd be good at this, that, and the third. And I finally sat down and I was like, you know what? Digital money, a lot of free time, a lot of free location and free cash flow eventually. Like, this kind of marks all the boxes that I want out of life. And I sat down. The creator that I ended up connecting first with was Miles, Flips for Miles. Big ups to him. He obviously changed my life in many ways with this business. And I did his program and learned an immense amount of knowledge. And I guess just through his experiences and really tailoring my situation to the best of the ability with the Amazon platform, I just dialed in and, took it to the moon. It was scaling there at least.
Yeah, absolutely. One thing that I've always like seen in common with a bunch of us, sellers on Amazon or just people that are in this current space is a lot of us always have that like go getter mentality, like you just grind it out, make it happen. How does that kind of fit into your business? Because I know you mentioned that you start off with a lemonade stand, and being in music, putting out albums, you have to have that hustle and that grind. How has that helped you out in your Amazon
So
business
my
today?
personal brand is called Kings Road, and it is basically the journey of becoming the hero of your own life. And every path, every hero's journey, there's the arc, the ups and downs, the pitfalls. I think the biggest takeaway and the biggest self development work I've always done and prided myself on was the fact that I just keep picking myself up and trying again and trying again. And honestly, like, that's some piece of the recipe to success that can't be understated, and this business specifically, like, I think every business, but we know this business, you get kicked down quite a bit and you have to force yourself back up, and it's just part of the game, man.
Yeah, absolutely. It's funny that you say that because like two things that come to mind when you said like be the hero in your own story, right? Joe Rogan has that famous quote saying, pretend that you have people with cameras following you around and be the main character of your own superhero story, which I totally believe wholeheartedly. And also, man, McConaughey. he also basically says his hero is himself 5 years from now. And every 5 years, once he arrives there, it's him again 5 years from now. And it's all about the chase and always about like improving yourself and being better and better every single year. And really, the only person you're in competition
Exactly. I
with
mean,
is
I
yourself.
completely agree with all of that. I think from music, being a content creator in itself, like I kind of always felt like I had cameras on me all the time walking around. So like I always just tried to hold myself to a certain standard, even if it was just for myself, you know?
And so, how does your business allocated right now? Did you start with like
Models, yeah. So
RA? I'm sure. I don't know if I
yeah,
don't know
I
what part of your.
started
Go
doing the
ahead.
TJ Maxx, Marshalls route, and that was super early on. I didn't really find too much success with that, but again, pick yourself up and try again. So I invested money into that, didn't really work. I ended up doing Miles's course, and we did OA for about a year and some change, and that went incredibly well. But like everything else, you could only go to a certain level, in my opinion. I'm sure there's plenty of people that are crushing it out there doing OA full time. I think wholesale is where we pivoted next. And I think wholesale is so much more of a scalable opportunity on the platform. And that's just my perspective. So now I'm probably like 100% wholesale. I know I bought a ton of OA stuff for Black Friday, Cyber Monday, but it's really just Q4.
Could you give us some details on the side of wholesale that you really felt made it like the most
Um,
scalable for you?
okay,
Give us
well,
like
in
what about
comparison
that do you
to
love so much?
OA, like I never have to deal with an order cancel again. I never have to deal with a sale going on a site where the next week every single person that's sourcing is going to find that same, pool of products because they all source on those sites. I think the capabilities of being able to put a huge purchase order together with a phone call and having the money wired over is infinitely better than having to sit on the computer and do 10 orders or 10 checkouts or and there's ways and systems to get around that so you don't have to do that, but for the beginner and somebody that's just starting out, like wholesale is a different, completely different model, and there's different headaches to that too that we could get into.
So it sounds like you've gravitated towards the model that you feel like is the most scalable. When you first started
Yes.
out, was that always the goal? I want to find a way to make this scale, or was it just something that was going to be a side hustle originally?
No, I think, well, yes, it was always something that I wanted to scale. I mean, I see people all the time with the orange bar syndrome just posting screenshots. You never really know what these people are making, but to be able to have no ceiling and be able to run up crazy revenue
Vanity
numbers, like
metrics.
you never know what could happen. So I knew I'm a highly competitive individual, and I like to push things to the max as far as I could. So like just doing this as a side hustle wasn't going to be enough for my appetite, um, and I committed to it, and I just ended up growing through the process of RA to OA to wholesale. It wasn't like that was the end goal. I kind of didn't know this world at all, and as I went through the process of it, I learned that, or from my perspective, I'm speaking at least, that wholesale was like the next step.
Have you ever thought about private label at all?
Yeah, I think that's down the line. I don't have any serious mental commitment to it at the moment. I think I like what we're building here and growing at the rate that we're growing, and
Yeah.
the things that are happening where we're at now is something that I'm happy with, and in the future we'll probably segue into that and parlay into
Yeah.
it.
Makes sense. I feel like a lot of people start off with the retail arbitrage, then OA, then wholesale, and then maybe eventually add private label. And a lot of our audience is going to be doing that online arbitrage model. So, for the viewers that are watching, that are listening, that have aspirations to go from OA to wholesale, what are some specific tips that you would give to that person?
Um, don't be afraid to get on the phone. The grind of OA and the grind of wholesale isn't all that different from grinding perspective. Like either way, you're gonna have to grind and do stuff that you don't like. That's just the reality. Not everybody is comfortable speaking on the phone. My perspective is email then, or if you don't like getting on the phone, do it anyway. Like there's no way around the truth and the hard work that has to go into this. And I think, honestly, I think it's more of like a capital thing for wholesale versus OA. Whereas probably wouldn't recommend somebody in the beginner phase to start with wholesale. Like build up a little bit of a nest egg in OA and then be able to, open these accounts with confidence that you can, because you understand the skill of sourcing, understand how to read Keepa well, and you can put together purchase orders of magnitude where the supplier will take you serious and understand, a little bit more about your business and what you're looking to do. That's my 2 cents on that.
Yeah. So you mentioned you probably shouldn't do it right away because you got to build up some capital. Is there like a specific capital amount that you'd recommend they have on hand?
That's rough because every supplier is different. Some people have like minimum quantities. Some people have a dollar amount minimum. To me, I would probably say around the $5,000 mark. If you could get a PO together of 5,000, that's probably going to get you some level of success in the wholesale realm. Now that's, there's so many suppliers out there. You could get it done with 1,000, you could get it done with 500, but to have a meaningful PO, probably around 5,000 in my opinion.
So you had mentioned on people not liking getting on the phone. Do you have some tips and tricks if you don't like that? How to
I
be good
think
at it? How to be
building
more efficient, and how
relationships
to
is
get people
arguably the
interested
biggest
when you
piece
do
of
get them on the
wholesale.
phone?
So that in itself is going to be limited via email. Like there's only so much you could say. There's only so much context that gets conveyed via text, right? There's so much loss of tonality and color in your message. Whereas on the phone, you'll be able to get your vibe, energy across, emotion. For tips as far as getting better on the phone, I wouldn't feel funny to write out a bunch of scripts and read them. And then, like, if you have a bad phone call, laugh about it, hang up, and go on to the next one. As soon as you get in your head and slow yourself down, that's where you run into trouble for your own self. It's not worth it. Like, just keep going. It's volume. Like, that's really it.
I want to take a quick moment to interrupt the podcast and talk about this video's sponsor, OA Alphas. OA Alphas offers high quality leads lists to help you grow and scale your online arbitrage business. Whenever I started getting into online arbitrage, leads lists were foundational for helping me understand the OA business and growing my business to its height. OA Alphas allows you to get profitable online arbitrage product leads every single day, Monday through Friday, in exchange for a set monthly fee. If you're looking to grow your online arbitrage business or gain back some of your time or learn more about OA, then I highly recommend you check out the link down below to visit oaalphas.com and start receiving those profitable leads every single day. Thank you, OA Alphas, for sponsoring this episode.
You wouldn't say that there's like a certain tactic you use to like break the ice with someone?
Yeah, I mean,
You'd say,
because
like,
there's certain people
each
that
call, each
care that
person
we
you're trying
sell
to
on
reach is a
Amazon
unique
don't want to sell to us. So, like, that in itself you have to play around with. And I'm not going to ever, promote black hat type of tactics publicly, at least. But if they don't ask, don't tell them. If they do ask, don't lie, because again, this is all relationship based. And honestly, it's probably going to be a barrier to entry. And then, you could go into the why wouldn't I be selling on Amazon? It's our highest sales channel. If we're not selling on Amazon in 2023, we're losing money. There's no foot traffic the way Amazon, and convey the message in a different way.
Right.
It's all creative tips and tricks that just going through the process will get you. But again, in my opinion, it's all volume. The first 100 calls you're going to sell. It is what it is. Like everybody,
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, it's keeping my music. My
We
first
talked about
100
that on
songs
this
sucked.
first
Like,
100 videos are just
it's just part of the game.
Got to
It's
put in the
learning
reps.
Yeah, all
Yeah,
volume.
100%.
Which I like that when you were talking about the calls, you said the color, the tonality. It's like you hear that your music background and experience speaking in your
Yeah,
how
absolutely.
you like.
But if I
making
wrote that
phone
to you
calls
via
and
text, it
there's
wouldn't
like
hit the same.
expression.
It
even
just
in
wouldn't. And unfortunately, our generation, in my opinion, likes the text better.
Yeah.
Whereas, like, that makes me as a competitor feel like I have such a leg up on everybody else because nobody's going to pick up the phone. Nobody wants to. My pool of competition just got way smaller just by the fact that I picked the phone up.
Yeah, no, you're 100% right. Because like some of I mean, I don't do any wholesale, so I don't have any experience in doing like, cold calls or anything like that. But from what I've seen, the people that do have a lot of success are the people that you just mentioned that are willing to pick up the phone and call, and convey their message a lot better. And then two, it's funny because a lot of them have the same like background prior to Amazon. They were either in software sales where they had to do a million cold calls anyways, or they were in collections where they were calling a bunch of people anyways because they were trying to get their money. Because
Mm,
like if you just send a text message or you send an email, most times most people, like, I get a bunch of freaking ads on my email just because we're resellers, so we sign up for a bunch of stuff. Most of them I just scroll by, don't even look at it twice. And same with, I'm sure it's the same with a lot of these distributors. If they
Yeah,
get a text, if they get an email, a lot of the
absolutely.
times it's just it's not as impactful as you calling and
Absolutely.
making that one-on-one connection.
100%. Our supplier, that one of our major suppliers that we deal with, actually doesn't take Amazon sellers on. And we ended up working a relationship with him, and he knows that we sell on Amazon and is cool with it. And like, but it took us such a long time to build that relationship up. A friend of ours takes him to dinner, goes to his family's parties now. Things like this are going out of the way and building the relationship where a lot of people just would stop after the first phone call.
that's what intrigues me. So, how many times is it the third or the fourth or the second phone call that you're actually
Yeah, but a lot
starting
of
to
the first
get
phone call
successful?
successes are
I
the
mean,
accounts
were
that
any
are
of
no
them like
good.
first phone call successes, or
It's
did you
usually
have
the
to
ones that are just
call
opening to
persevere?
open and they just want, new clients, but then you get the catalogs or you go through their portal and there's nothing there for us. So a lot of the times it's the guys that you have to chase down a little bit more. And like for me, a great hilarious example of this was I applied to a brand direct one day, got denied, didn't understand why, whatever. They just didn't want to take, I guess, us on as a client. I signed up again through my personal email. And then they reached out to me and said, "Hey, we don't have anything on your business. Let's get your account open and set up." And I was like, I looked at the computer like, wow, that never happened before. That was an interesting account. And it was a big, fairly
Interesting.
big brand that all of us know and probably use. It was very interesting.
That was my second question. What
Well,
is what is the second attempt after you get shut down look
yeah,
like?
I
Like
mean,
you
but that
can't
was
just approach the
that
same
was
way.
a unique
So
situation because it
that's
was a
interesting that
portal.
you
I
went through the
wasn't building
personal
with a
and it
sales rep
worked.
directly. A lot of the times it is going to be a portal early on, but for me,
Right.
like if you're touching the person pause once, twice, three times, and they're ignoring you and not getting back to you, then it might not be the people that you want to do business with anyway. But there could be value adds that you like if you're dealing with a brand directly, there could be value adds there if you're gonna, tell them that their brand is got X, Y, and Z amount of sellers. Is anybody keeping up with the map pricing? And pitch them in different ways, just to try to add value and be of service to the brand, opposed to just getting access to them for your own self personal gain. But a lot of it, honestly, bro, is volume. Like people, the first time I'd be like, yeah, yeah, send over your information, and then they won't answer, and then you reach out again, and then they won't answer, and then you reach out and say, hey, I'm just following up. I sent over my information. Here it is again, so it's at the top of your email, whatever, and then they'll answer.
Mm.
It's like you just can't give up. Do you guys all do OA?
Yeah, so I started with RA, then primarily OA, small amount of wholesale, and Josh was actually my warehouse manager out in Delaware and helped me out with prep for a
Nice.
long time.
I feel you. Even my buy sheet's like crazy right now. It's just too much to keep up with.
Pete, so what are some softwares that you use in the wholesale game?
My tech stack right now is Inventory Lab. Since they came out with the 2Ds and the LTL, that was a major upgrade for us. So we just stayed with Inventory Lab. I use Seller Amp for sourcing, Keepa, obviously. Um, I use Smart Scout for brand research, and then Google just to like really dial into suppliers and wholesalers. Another key thing that I have is DS. What's it called? Uh,
Quick view?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. great tool for just quick seeing, rank and seller count and whatnot.
Yeah, awesome tool and free, and even their pro version is like what,
Yeah,
$20 for a lifetime.
it's great.
Sweet. So Pete, you also now operate a 3PL. So let's kind of transition, talk about what you got going on there.
Yeah, I mean, so the transition was kind of organic, similar to how everything else kind of happened. I met a bunch of sellers along the way. A third party logistics or prep center, whatever you guys want to call it. We basically take clients on for to send us units. We repackage them and we ship them into Amazon for them. So anybody who's a digital nomad or anybody who's aspiring to have that I never touch the product type of lifestyle, that's where we come into play. Especially if you're doing OA. But for us specifically, because we're located in North New York, right outside the city, we're still unfortunately sales tax. So we're gonna, pivot and really focus on wholesale sellers. But I mean, we're fully insured. We have, 24/7 security camera footage going. We uh we have 3 employees that are working for whenever need be. So product is going to get in and out within 24 to 48 hours. Our pricing is competitive. Anybody that sees this, matter of fact, DM me personally, Logan, because that's how I got here, and I'll work with you guys to figure out what works for you. And we're in the tri-state area, so you're going to have the fastest shipping times, arguably in this country.
So if someone is brand new to a 3PL, how does it work? What do you need from them? And then how does that whole process work?
Yeah, so for us, I mean, we have a website that you can apply online to kind of gauge where you're at. As long as we have your, if you use Inventory Lab, preferably, we can become employees on your Inventory Lab, do your shipments for you, become a user on your seller account, which sounds scary. And I was scared the first time I used the Prep Center too, but it's just a user permission to get access to send shipments in. And then once we have that, we can get the shipping labels. We package everything up for you, depending on how you want it to be shipped via, UPS, SPD, or LTL with pallets. We do both. And yeah, we package it, prep it up, wrap it, and send it out.
Awesome. And then with so many different prep center options that are out there, what are some reasons or like why would someone want to go with you and your team?
I mean, again, between all of the quick little value adds and the peace of mind that my team and I bring, we're also experienced sellers in this space. So you're not sending your units to like Oregon in the middle of nowhere in somebody's backyard that I've actually dealt with, which is hyper scary in reality. But we've all been there. And now for us, like the competitive pricing and the competitive shipping times, I think is just unbeatable in this space. And I don't see why you wouldn't. It wouldn't make sense to really work with anybody else. Well, I have some stuff that'll go out, and then within the next 24 to 48 hours, it's checked in and selling. Like
That's
it's
crazy.
crazy sometimes. Obviously, it's not always like
Right.
that. We know how Amazon works, and depending on their fulfillment center's capacity at the time, but it definitely happens often, man. It's quite insane.
That is crazy. And that speed advantage is huge.
Yeah, bro. Especially in this game, the more sellers hear about these listings, they get on them, and then before you know it, price is down.
Yeah.
And it's like if you just got in faster, you would
Yep.
have got through your product.
And the
faster.
quicker you can turn over your capital too, the quicker you're going to be able to grow.
Absolutely. Yeah. So my experience with my prep center was an interesting one. We've made them a shit ton of money. If I'm just being frank, and excuse me for cursing, but we made them a lot of money doing OA with them. And then as we scaled, it was impossible to do this out of my house and out of the backyard and whatever. Like I decided to team up with a bunch of sellers that I got, really close with and built incredible relationships with. And we ended up just getting a warehouse together. And that mitigates my risk by being the only person that has to cover everything. But it also allows us to grow and also do a lot of sourcing and buying and non-competitive things together. So that was a big piece in itself. And then we get the warehouse. And then, you know, there's bills to be paid, and then there's like days where there's no inventory in there because we just aren't buying at that capacity all the time. And you think about, okay, well, how can we utilize this space more effectively? Obviously, we're in somewhat of a gold rush here with Amazon and everybody wanting to learn the platform. So the guys who made the killing weren't only digging for the gold, they were also selling the shovels. So that was a piece of inspiration for me as well. And then also, like, to be fully transparent, man, there's a lot of risk that people don't talk about selling on the platform. And at any time, we all know suspensions happen, and then your money's tied up. And I'd be a fool as a businessman to throw all my eggs in one basket or not play the game. Like, I'm anticipating, okay, one day if this does go down, where do we go? What do we do? So at least building the prep center could float us through the dark times, worst case scenario. And it's still vertically integrated in our business now. We're already there doing it. It was kind of a no-brainer.
Yeah, for sure. That vertical integration is so important. It's why a lot of people will do things like prep centers. I do leads lists as another really good example, but looking for ways that you can double down on what you're already doing is
Yeah, like, we're already there. We're
yeah,
already winning. Why not just help other people win in our space?
exactly.
Yeah.
We wake up, we win, as Echo Flips would say.
Yeah.
But yeah, guys, prep is one of the first things that I recommend that you outsource. So if you're in the wholesale game looking for a prep center, definitely hit up Pete at It's P Double, and we'll also put the website link in the description down below so you can get connected and see if you can do business with them. But Pete, thank you
Yeah,
so
man.
much for coming on.
You got it. Our prep center, by the way, is called Boxed Out 3PL. I'm sure, like he said, we'll put the website down, but hit me up on Instagram. You have the handle there. Anybody that reaches out from this podcast, I'm willing to work with you guys on price just because it came from here. So thank you guys for having me. It's been a pleasure, and I'm glad we did this tonight.
Awesome. Thank you.